Okay, because of the classroom, in the future, if the class will be a lecture or an activity, it will start at 10:20. If it will be an individual conference, it will start whenever I get here. Okay, welcome to the fourth semester of your required writing courses. I regret to inform you that this semester will be the hardest one. So please pay attention. Um, just like last semester, everything you need is on Moodle. If I post an announcement here, you will get an email from Moodle. If you want to rewatch the lectures, they will be included in this YouTube playlist. When I finish marking your essay drafts, I will upload them to this Google Drive folder. And if you forgot your course packet at home, there's a PDF here as well. Here's some extra reading for you. This is the same AI style test I gave you last semester. If you can tell the difference between human writing and AI writing in this document, I will be much more reassured about your ability as a writer. Here are two essays about good English writing. Here's a good writing textbook if you're interested in improving your writing even more beyond what we're doing in this class. Here's a fun paper about how people in the Middle Ages and early modern era studied writing, with some cool activity ideas if you want to do that. And then here's just a collection of tips about how to learn English written in Chinese. Okay, let's take a look at the handout. First page is the title page. I feel like in the past, the handout has lacked a title page, so I created one this time. It looks good, right? Great. Okay, so the actual first page will be the detailed schedule. This semester we'll be doing two kinds of essays, argument essays and research essays. Again, both of these are not easy to do well. So later on today, I will begin introducing argument essays, and there will be a midterm exam. All of your options will be argument essays. You will notice that there is no extra week between draft 1 conference and the draft 2 conference. The draft 2 conference will also be based on what you bring to me. I'm not going to ask you to upload something, and I'm not going to take time to mark it in detail. So draft 1 and draft 2 will be based on what you bring to me in class. And only for draft 3 uh, will you have to upload something, and then I'll take 1 week to mark it. After the midterm exam, we're doing research essays, and then same thing. Draft 1, draft 2 is based on impressions, and draft 3 will take 1 week to mark. So we're going to watch a movie while I mark your third drafts. And then there's an extra week. I don't know what to do, so we have another movie. Finally, weeks 17 and 18 are self-study. You don't have to come to class. In fact, don't come to class, but you will have to write some reflections on what you have learned in this course. That has already been prepared on Moodle. Okay, this is argument, and then you have some example essays. These are all professionally published essays, so you don't have to write as well as they do, but it's a kind of inspiration. It's a kind of guide. What does a good argument essay look like? Here are some extra materials. Um, Over the holiday, I designed a customized GPT and trained it to give a score and feedback that is very similar to what I would actually give. So if you don't want to wait for my opinion and you want to see how well you're doing, you can upload your argument essay to this GPT and it will give you a score and give you some feedback. A few limitations. First of all, you will need a free ChatGPT account or a paid ChatGPT account. I'm pretty sure you all have an account by now, right? Okay. The second one is because of the way that ChatGPT works and does not work, I had to ask it to give a grade out of 18, but in fact, your real grade is out of 15. And so even though it will say this is, like 3 out of 6 or 4 out of 6, in fact, it's the highest score is 5, not 6. And that's just what it says. And so your total score, the highest score is not 18, it is 15. It is very, very unlikely that ChatGPT will give you a score higher than 15. So you should consider 15 to be the highest score. And then finally, well, not finally, the third point is it is not me, right? It is not a copy of me. I tried my best, but there are still some differences. And of course, if you upload the same essay multiple times, it will give you slightly different scores, but it should be about the same level. So this is just another layer of feedback and guidance. Please do not treat this as a prediction of your actual grade. And number four, if you care about your data privacy, you can turn on, I don't think you can turn on temporary chat, but you should delete your conversation history after you're finished if you don't want OpenAI to use it for training in the future. And so remember to copy what it says, paste it somewhere else, and then you can delete the chat history. Okay, and then the second half is research essays, and the course reflections are here. Um, so this semester, the grading percentages, each essay is 30%. Argument essays, 30%. Research essays, 30%. And I will only grade the final draft, which is, I think it's draft 4. I call it the final draft. It's after draft 3. I will only grade this one. So you have 3 chances before that to improve your essay, no pressure. So 30-30, that's 60. The midterm exam, which is about argument essays, is 20. And then these final course reflections are also 20. Okay. And then finally down here, if you need extra credit, you can do this assignment. Last semester, the reflections were part of the extra credit. This semester, the reflections are required. So if you do need extra credit, you only have 2 choices left. Do this, or again, take part in the short film contest. The department is holding another short film contest this semester. The details are not yet announced, but we know it's going to happen. So if you participate and you follow all of the requirements, I will give you 10 points. Okay, do you have questions about the Moodle or the schedule? Okay. So next, the essay grading rubric. This is the same as last time, but it's only for the argument essay. I'll talk more about this when we get to the research essay, but for the research essay, I don't really care what you write. I care more about how you use sources, information that you find in other places. So that's why I put the ChatGPT link under argument, because it's not going to help you for the research essay. In fact, and I'll talk about this in the second half of the semester, but if you use ChatGPT for the research essay, it will actually hurt you. It is inaccurate for research essays. Yeah, okay. So just a reminder, we're looking at three different aspects. Logos is your ideas and logic and how well you explain your ideas. Pathos is your examples and emotions, how well you can tell a story to support your ideas. And ethos is your author persona. How clearly can we see the author in this essay? How much should we trust the author? And for the purposes of argument, how much have you engaged with people who disagree with you? I'll talk about that later today. Each one is worth a maximum of 5 points, so the total is worth a maximum of 15 points. And for grading purposes, I will multiply that by 2 to get 30%. Okay, so that is the introduction to the course. Questions so far? Okay, if you don't have questions, we're moving into argument essays. Okay, so an argument essay is kind of like a comparison contrast essay with one big difference. In a comparison contrast essay, you are simply giving information. You're not trying to guide the reader. You're letting the reader have all the necessary information and the reader can make their own decision. In an argument essay, you are trying to guide the reader. You, the author, think that one thing is better than another, and you're trying to get your reader to agree. Now, this means that your reader probably doesn't agree. In fact, I'm going to tell you that the best argument essay assumes that your reader disagrees. If you think A is better than B, treat your reader like they believe B is better than A. And you have to convince them that they are wrong and you are right. So, because the reader is different and because your purpose is different, the structure of the argument essay will look different as well. So like in a comparison contrast, you have an introduction and you talk about A and then you talk about B, or maybe you talk about the first point A versus B, second point A versus B, and then you have a very neutral conclusion. Argument essays do not look like that. And I'll tell you what they look like a little bit later. But the central idea of an argument essay is how do you present information to convince somebody who does not agree? So there are some key elements that every argument essay should have, regardless of the structure. It should have arguments. An argument is a claim plus a reason plus evidence. The claim is the point. What are you talking about? The reason is why do you think it is good or why do you think it is bad? And then the evidence is what information are you using to reach that belief? Why do you think it's good? Why do you, or based on what do you think it's good, or based on what do you think it's bad? And then a short conclusion to remind the reader what you're talking about again. If your reasons are bad, or like if your reasons don't make sense, or your evidence doesn't connect to your reasons, then it is not an argument, it is a fallacy in Chinese, 谬论. So this is actually one thing that ChatGPT can be pretty bad at. You might think it's a computer. Of course, its logic will be perfect, but no, ChatGPT's logic is actually pretty bad. And I'll give you a chance to experience that for yourself a bit later. So for this kind of essay, you do have to think about the logical connections and if it does fit together and make sense or not. Now, this is just your ideas, but remember, your reader disagrees with you. So you can't just talk to the air. You actually have to deal with this disagreeing reader. How do you deal with someone who disagrees? First, you have to recognize that they do disagree. You have to say, like, I know you disagree and you think this because of these reasons. And after you bring out why they disagree, you have to respond. You have to explain why their reason is wrong. And again, I will explain how to do this in more detail later. So the key to an argument essay is critical thinking. I'm sure you've heard this phrase a lot, right? Critical thinking. It's very important. We must all have critical thinking. But what does critical thinking actually mean? Critical thinking means, it says here, going beyond what has already been stated to discover, develop, and clarify an argument and the thinking process involved. So critical thinking is not just looking at this sentence and thinking, does that make sense? It's also using ideas and information that you have from other areas to bring a different perspective on this sentence to think, does it make sense? So we've been talking about the logic of the sentence, but it's also about comparing it with the real world experience, real world evidence, and the logic of other parts of your essay and other parts of your topic, going beyond what has already been stated. So in fact, the key to having good critical thinking is to know stuff. You have to know things beyond what you're specifically saying in your evidence. So when you're writing your argument essay, you might find that you have to do a little bit of research to learn about what's actually going on related to your topic. So as we saw in the picture above, an argument must have claims plus reasons plus evidence. If the argument has a claim but no reasons, they are not arguments, they are opinions. I hate ice cream. Why? I don't know. I just hate it. That's not an argument. That's an opinion. I hate ice cream. Why? Because I cannot digest dairy. And so even though it is very delicious, every time I eat it, I suffer. And so when I look at ice cream, it gives me pain. That is an argument because I have a reason. Uh, Also, if you are responding to somebody who disagrees with you and you don't when you try to explain why they're wrong, you simply paraphrase what they say. You repeat what they say in a different way, but you don't really respond. That doesn't count. You do have to explain where they are wrong and why they are wrong. So this is the basic spirit of an argument essay. Now let's look at how to actually write an argument essay. Oh, I have a PowerPoint for this. Hang on. Argument essays. This is the basic structure. You'll notice that it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you do have to follow this order. Of course, you can choose a different order, but I think this is the order that makes the most sense. If you choose to use a different order, uh, you should have a good reason. But if you don't have a good reason, I think this order is most effective. So first, introduce your topic. You have to talk about three things. Why is it important? Okay, first of all, you have to say what is it? What are you talking about? Then you have to explain why is it important? What are the two sides of the controversy? And which side do you stand on? So something that a lot of students like to do is they will explain everything. And then at the very last paragraph, they will say, I personally think blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, you have to say what you think in the first paragraph, straight at the top. Here's the topic. There's some controversy. Some people think this. Some people think that. I think this. And then that is your first paragraph. The point of an argument essay is to convince somebody. It's hard to convince somebody if you don't tell them what you think. If they have to read the whole essay to see what you're trying to say, that is not convincing. So that's the introduction. Then you have to give your actual arguments, and I will explain what an argument looks like on the next slide. The third point is, are there any ideas from the other side that you have not yet talked about? You will see later when you give your arguments, they will be engaging with the other side. So in the middle of your arguments, you will already be talking about the other side. But in the third point, are there other things that you have not yet talked about? And you can like respond to those ideas in the third point. And then the fourth point is your conclusion. Give a brief summary of each argument. That, in fact, if you add up all of these summaries, they don't have to be longer than one sentence. So you can say, in this essay, I talked about A, B, C, and D. That would be the summary. And then the second thing, this will also take a little bit of practice. Say something like, if you agree with me, society will be a better place, or you will be a happier person, or you will see improvements in your life, or we can rescue more cats and dogs, right? Tell the reader why, if they agree with you, it would make the world a better place. End on a high note, end on an optimistic, happy, joyful note. Now, some of you might have noticed that I'm only talking about two sides. In the real world, of course, most issues have more than two sides. And if you were writing a full-length argument essay to publish, you would have to deal with most of the positions. But in this class, you can treat this as practice to gain the basic skills. So in this class, you have to choose what the other side is. For example, if your topic is you think dogs are better pets than cats. Now that I've said this, you can't use this topic. If your point is dogs are better pets than cats, you have two opposing sides. One opposing side says cats are better than dogs as pets. But there's another option. The second opposing option is it is better to not have a pet. Right? If you say you should get a dog as a pet instead of a cat, then the other side is either get a cat or don't get a pet. So if you choose that as your topic, again, you cannot choose that as your topic because it's my example. You would have to choose. Does your reader think that cats are better pets? Or does your reader think that they should not have pets? And you would respond to your reader in different ways according to what kind of reader you are writing about. Okay, so this slide has listed 4 main points, but in fact, the second point should be more than 1 paragraph. So your essay should be longer than 4 paragraphs. It should be 3 paragraphs plus however many arguments you have. Each argument is 1 paragraph. So if you have 3 arguments, your essay will be 6 paragraphs. Questions so far? Okay, so if you look on your handout, I have shown you that the next slide will be about arguments. Like, how do you do arguments? This is what an argument looks like. So every argument paragraph will look like this. And so you will do this. If you have 3 arguments, you will do this 3 times here. So it like fits into your essay. Okay. How do you do an argument? You should begin with what the other side thinks. This brings up the importance and necessity of this argument. If nobody disagrees with you, why are you talking about it? So you have to begin with what the other side thinks about this point. Now, in order to convince people, you have to show people that you understand why somebody would think that. You can't just say, some people think the earth is flat, but we all know the earth is round. That's not convincing. It feels like you don't really understand why somebody would think the earth is flat. You have to explain why do they think this. That way you can explain why they are wrong. Some people think the earth is flat because when they go on the top of Taipei 101, they can see the edge of the world, and so it looks flat. And so then you can talk about why that logic is wrong. Like the edge is not the edge of a flat surface. The edge is the edge of the really big circle that you're standing on. Because when you stand on a circle, it's impossible to see the other side. So there has to be an edge somewhere, right? Only when you talk about why they think this can you talk about why they are wrong. So you begin with what the other side thinks. Then you explain why they are wrong. And I will show you in more detail how to do that. And then finally, you explain why you are right. So I just gave an example of that, right? I said they think it's flat because they think that's the edge of a flat surface. But in fact, why am I right? It's actually the edge of a circle because you can't see the whole circle. That's the structure of an argument. And then finally, this is where you should try to give examples. Pure logic may convince a computer, but pure logic rarely convinces a human. You have to tell a story to make your ideas sound reasonable, sound like something people have already experienced in their life. So my advice is to think of the 2 sides as living in 2 different worlds. The other side thinks the world is flat. That means that they live in a world where they treat the earth as flat. You, of course, like I do, live in a world where the earth is round. And so we treat the earth like it is round. So when you give an example, think about it like, why would it be better for your reader to live in your world? Yeah, so for that purpose, the flat earth example is not very good because um, when you choose an argument topic, please try to choose a topic where reasonable people would actually disagree. It's hard to present the reasons why somebody would believe in a flat earth, and it's hard to give examples from that world and make it look like something that people would actually believe. So try to choose something that is a difference of opinion or difference of perspective. Try not to choose something that is based on fact. So, for example, don't do does global warming exist? Because it's really hard to argue. It's really hard to present somebody who thinks that global warming does not exist and make it look like it's something that reasonable people would agree. If you do want to talk about global warming, the topic you have to choose is, should we focus our efforts on individual actions or on large scale actions to fight global warming? That is something that reasonable people disagree on. Like, should you focus on reducing your own energy consumption, doing more recycling, turning off the air conditioner, that kind of thing? Or should you spend your time joining protests and doing petitions and arguing with people in public and like doing larger scale things? That's not based on facts. That's based on different perspectives. Okay, questions about how to do an argument? Okay, finally, how do you respond to the other side? For every point that the other side says, first of all, you have to respond. If you mention something that the other side says, you have to respond to it. By the end of your essay, there should be no question. There should be no point on which the other side still uh, has credit. Every point that you mention from the other side must be responded to. So you have a few options. Choose the option that fits your situation. The first one, you can say the other side's facts are wrong. They say because of these facts, therefore they believe this. And you can say, actually, if you look at the actual science, that's not what it says. The second one, the facts are right, but they're irrelevant. So um, let's see. Cats versus dogs. Yes, it is true that in popular culture, cats are often seen as more crafty, more calculating, more evil. But that's not relevant to your choice because you are forming a relationship with one individual dog or cat, not with the cultural idea of dogs or cats. So yes, it's true, but it's not related to your topic. The third one, yes, it's true and it is relevant, but it's really not that important. Yes, it is true that cats shed fur. And it is relevant because maybe you have an allergy, maybe you don't like cleaning up, sweeping the floor. But it's not very important because dogs also shed fur. So if you're choosing between a dog or a cat, both of them shed fur, you have to deal with the same shit either way. So it's not that important. And then finally, if all else fails, use the nuclear option, 必杀技. If they make a point that is right, that is relevant, and it is important, then you have to uh, draw the attention to something else and make the something else even more important than this thing. So, for example, um, let's say that the other side says they would prefer a cat because cats, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time and energy on them. They take care of themselves most of the time. At most, you clean their shit once a day or twice a day, and that's it. And feed them. So it's good for lazy people. That's true. That's relevant. And it is important. But if I'm on the side of dogs, I can say, yes, but that also means no pet is pushing you to get more exercise. No, that your cat is not going to make you healthier. And even if you get to enjoy more time, like, I don't know, alone with your cat at home in comfort, that comfort will kill you. Did you know that sitting for too long is just as bad for you as smoking? It's committing slow motion suicide. And a dog would not do that to you. So, yes, the information about cats not needing too much energy and effort is true, but my response is that there's something even more important that you're not thinking about. Now, these three are all about what the other side says. But this fourth point is where you bring in your critical thinking. What other information, what other perspectives are related to the topic and could be described as more important? Um, I also teach this structure when I teach debating. In a debate, the other side gets to reply to you as well. And so when they reply, they will argue about how actually cats also bring something really important that's more important than the exercise thing. And it becomes a debate about which is more important, exercise or mental health. And that shows you that debates don't have a solid answer. It's an ongoing discussion among human beings. And that is what a society is. A society is just one long discussion among people. So in fact, if you are able to learn how to write an argument essay and you are able to understand how people use logic to make their points, and you can respond to them with logic and stories and examples, you are learning how to be a good citizen in a democracy. You are learning how to communicate your ideas and also how to understand other people when they communicate their ideas. And you are learning how to discuss these ideas with people who have different ideas and come to some kind of agreement about what to do in a society. So that's what I hope you can get from this unit, like the really big, high level skills that you can learn from writing an argument essay. Questions so far? Okay, so um, if you're new to my writing class, you can choose your own topic. Of course, if you're back from last semester, you can also choose your own topic. There are some limitations, though. Based on my experience teaching argument essays over many years, there are a few topics that do not produce good argument essays. Number one, cats and dogs. That's why I used it as my example. Don't write about cats and dogs. Number two, global warming, as I just said. Uh, if it's something based on fact or science, it's probably not going to give you a good argument essay. So don't write about global warming unless you are writing about strategies to fight global warming. Number three, the death penalty, capital punishment. It's not a good topic because in the real world, the disagreement is mostly about what is a more effective kind of justice. And so you'll get bogged down in details. In Taiwan, uh, below the death penalty, the harshest sentence is life imprisonment, but actually you're eligible for parole after 15 years. 15年后可以申请假释. And so one reason why people in Taiwan sometimes argue for the death penalty is because they think 15 years is not long enough. Well, okay, then create a new category that has no parole. You don't have to use the death penalty. So it's based on details and data, and it doesn't help you practice these large, high-level skills of presenting ideas and giving examples. So don't talk about the death penalty. And the last topic I don't want you to write about is priority seating 不爱做. And this is because the difference is so small. If you have priority seating versus if you don't have priority seating, the only difference is that when somebody needs to sit and it's not obvious, they have to find another way to let people know. Either they have to talk to people and say, excuse me, I need to sit, and then convince somebody that they actually do need to sit, or they have to like go to the if you're taking the Taipei subway, you have to go to the MRT information desk and get a sticker that says I need priority seating and put it on you. And so when somebody is acting stupid, you can show your sticker and then they should give you their seat. The difference is so small, it's really not worth writing a whole argument essay about this difference. Um, and therefore, from my own experience, when students have tried to write about this, it's really hard to write a whole essay. So don't do that. Okay, but for most other topics, I think it should be fine. Let's take a short break. When we come back, let's talk about ChatGPT. If you need a handout, I have handouts here. Here. If you need your final exam from last semester,讲义跟范北平期末考。要之前的那个协作1、2、3、4。对，它等同写作式。谢谢。 The name of this course is Academic Writing and AI Application, so I do want you to applicate the AI. But I hope that you will limit your application to grammar, spelling, and coherence. To write an essay, as I'm sure you know, you need to do many different things. You have to come up with ideas, you have to choose an idea, you have to come up with points related to that idea, you have to come up with reasoning to support those points, you have to think about what somebody else might think and how you should respond to them, and you have to organize everything, and then you have to write it out in language that is clear and easy to understand and convincing. For most of these, AI does not do a very good job. For example, last semester, every person who asked ChatGPT for ideas about the comparison contrast essay wrote about city versus country. And it got very boring very fast. So even for ideas, hey, what can I write about? You can think about ideas from your own life. Is there something that you care about very much that other people may disagree with? It could be big, like politics. It could be small, like which Pokemon game is the best one. Anything that you are interested in, that you want to persuade other people about, and that is not based on facts, could be a good essay topic. The ideas for your arguments should also come from you. If you choose a topic that you care about, why do you care about it? This should not be too hard to list out and figure out why you think this way. And so from that point, you can go in the other direction and think about why somebody else would have other ideas. And in fact, imagining what someone who disagrees thinks is the hardest part of this essay and the most important part of this essay. If you don't understand other people until they explain things to you, life will get very hard for you very fast. You have to have a sense of what other people might think and why they might think this way. Otherwise, every time you meet somebody who thinks very different from you, it will feel like you're sitting in a classroom and you're taking in all of this new information from the beginning. Having a basic understanding of other people is at the root of empathy. And empathy is at the root of kindness, and kindness is at the root of democracy. So I do want you to try your very best to imagine, why would somebody disagree with what I think? What are some reasons they have? Why might they have those reasons? Could it be based on their own experience? Could it be based on their different background? Could they have read or seen things that I have not read and I have not seen? And then finally, coming up with examples to make your points more convincing. If you really believe in your topic, you should have stories that you can tell. Like when the first time you realized you believe this, or your experience talking with people who don't believe this. You can talk about, like, once you started believing this, how did your life change? The stories should be the most human part of your essay. It doesn't make a lot of sense to ask AI to tell those stories for you. But you can, once you have a basic story, you can ask AI to fill in some of the details, some of the gaps to make it more concrete and vivid. You can also ask AI, like when you have tried thinking about why would other people disagree, and you have like 3 or 4 reasons, you can ask AI, hey, I thought of these 3 or 4 reasons. Are there other possible reasons? Because if beliefs are based on life experience, we cannot know somebody else's life experience 100%. So there will be a limit on how much we can understand other people. After you have tried your best and come up with some possible reasons they disagree with you, then you can ask AI, which has much more information about humanity, um, and see what else it can give you. And then finally, ask AI to correct your grammar and spelling. This is not optional. You must ask AI to correct your grammar and spelling. You must also check line by line whether its corrections fit what you want to say. I have seen student essays where like one point doesn't make sense. And in the conference, I asked the student, hey, what are you trying to say here? And they looked at it and they said, oh, AI mixed up these 2 points. It's in the wrong order. It's like I was trying to say A is better than B, but AI turned it around and said B is better than A. So you do have to check that the output is exactly what you want. Right. And then, of course, if you care about data privacy, remember to delete your conversation history afterwards. Questions about ChatGPT usage? Okay, because like if you ask it to give you arguments and reasons, it doesn't do a good job. And we have an example in your handout. Page 6, this is a real essay written by a real human. And then on page 8 is page 9 is the AI version. I want you to take some time, read parts of both essays, compare them, and see if you think that the human version is better and why. Or if you think the AI version is better, why that is. And you can talk with your classmates. You can, um, I don't know if you want to talk to AI about this assignment, uh, but you can talk with your classmates. I'll give you 20 minutes to discuss these 2 essays. Okay, in the interest of time, let's begin the analysis. I really should have asked you to read this during the break. Sorry about that. But I did have a chance to talk with a few of you, and the people I talked to all preferred the human version. Some reasons I heard were the human version gives more evidence, and it's true. Like, look at this, right? Um, you have money, you have uh, the amount of broadcasts, you have data, you have like when the last time each team won. There's lots of evidence to support the author's essay, but the AI version doesn't give you numbers. It says lags behind in attracting sponsorship deals. That doesn't really give us a sense of how big the difference is. Um, in this paragraph, it does say there are no legal channels for women's football. I guess that counts as evidence. But that's like one sentence of evidence in 3 paragraphs. In the next paragraph, receive inferior compensation just means they are paid less. But again, we don't know how big this problem is. So the human version uses more specific evidence, and it helps convince us that it is a big problem. Another thing that the human essay does is it uses more concrete language. So, for example, most clubs have women and men training in the same facility where they can use the same equipment. Look at the verbs: training, use equipment. It gives you a picture. Whereas in the AI version, it says, despite sharing the same venues and resources. That's it. That whole sentence is reduced to this part. So the idea is the same. They use the same equipment, they train in the same places, but the AI language is much more abstract. So like if we think about it, we understand what this means, but it doesn't really give us that feeling of what's going on. The language is too abstract and condensed. Related to this is the vocabulary, the word choice. Uh, like to gain traction, which means has become more important. Exerting equivalent effort means to work just as hard. Elucidate the unequal treatment, which means explain why they are treated differently. Like this abstract language does not make it easier to understand. One of your classmates mentioned that a good convincing essay should feel like it's somebody talking, should feel like there's a human trying to explain something to you. Another part of this problem is many of these verbs don't actually mean anything. Uh, for example, in this paragraph, the main verb is. The be verb doesn't tell you anything. Is paramount just means is important. If you look at the human version, this is unequal pay for equivalent effort. Okay. If you uh, look at the verbs used in the human version, earned, are paid, Are they more successful? No. Has not won, right? So the verbs are also slightly more concrete. Um, Usually we want to try avoid using the be verb as the main verb because it doesn't give you new information. It doesn't give you a picture. And so it's a little harder to understand. And then one more thing that a classmate of yours pointed out is the difference in how the essay begins. Like, let's look at the AI version first. In recent years, discussions surrounding gender equality in sports, particularly in football, have gained significant traction. Translation. Recently, more and more people have started talking about gender equality in sports, especially football. So the beginning says, hey, more and more people are talking about this. So, like, the introduction is supposed to tell you why this topic is important. Does this feel important? People are talking about it, so we should also talk about it. What are you in middle school? Whereas the human version says women's football and men's football have undergone separate development. Throughout this progression, whether women's football and men's football are treated equally has become a topic of great interest. So it does say that this is an interesting topic, but the key point is the first sentence. They have developed separately. So this is why it is important to compare them because they're separate. If you only look at the women's side, you don't know how well they're doing. If you only look at the men's side, you don't know how well they're doing. You have to look at them both together. So it creates a sense of importance for this topic. We should examine how they are doing and compare them to each other. So like even the opening strategy, AI strategy is more vague and less effective. Whereas the human writer has grabbed onto the key point for why this topic is so important. And then finally, one last thing that uh, the students I talked to did not pick up on, but hopefully when I tell you, you'll agree with me. The AI version does not talk about the other side. The argument, the main position of both essays is that women soccer players are currently not being treated equally with men. But it doesn't present the ideas of people who think that they are being treated equally. Or I guess not equally, but equivalently, proportionally, and bilidi. Right? It just says women footballers face systemic disparities, which means women soccer players are treated differently because they are women. Sorry, systematic disparities. First, glaring discrepancy in sponsorship revenue. Further unequal access to broadcast channels. These are all good ideas and they are presented in a logical way, even if it's not a very clear way. But when we read this, we think, okay, makes sense, makes sense. Why would anybody disagree? But if you read the human version, we do have that part. From the very first paragraph. Both sides are very similar, so it's reasonable to expect equal treatment. Some people believe that the treatment between women and men is already equal, but I disagree. So you now have another side. Now you know who you're talking to. And the essay begins every paragraph the same way. Some people argue that because men and women have the same sponsors, their contracts are equal. They are using the same facilities, they use the same equipment. So this is why some people think it's already equal. They use the same things, they work with the same companies. Equal. But in fact, if you look at the numbers are very different. Another one, women's football broadcast and information is increasing. Many sports media outlets are providing more reports and analysis. That's why some people think women's football is now equal to men's football. But again, if you look at the data, the situation for women has been increasing, but it's still not as good as for men. Right? So this is something the AI essay did not do. It did not consider why somebody would disagree with you. And I think this is the key point of an essay, of an argument essay. You have to let the reader know that you understand where they're coming from. You're not treating them like an idiot. You understand why you might think this, but in fact, if you pay more attention, it's not actually correct. And that's how you do good communication. Okay, questions about these two essays? So hopefully by pointing out AI's limitations, I have shown you where you can focus your efforts when you're writing your essay. Okay, now let's do a short exercise. Pages 11 and 12 are a professionally written and published argument essay. It's not very good. I do have to tell you, um, if you go look for argument essays in the newspapers, online, most argument essays are terrible because in the real world, people are more convinced by emotions and stories, and logic, pure logic, is less powerful. So most professionally published argument essays and opinion essays use more emotion than logic. And this is a good example. So let's analyze this essay together. I want us to write an outline for this essay. For each paragraph, what is the paragraph saying? How does it say this? So like for each paragraph, what is the point? What are the reasons? What is the evidence? Let's do this together. Okay, so this essay is about whether Western governments should prevent people from covering their faces because of religious reasons. As you can expect, this was written before COVID-19. But even today in the West, many countries have a debate about whether, even though COVID-19 exists, should we uh, encourage people to cover their face? And a lot of people actually say no. And this essay will actually give some perspective as to why this is a debate in Western countries. But for this essay, it's about religion, not about health. Okay, paragraph 1. Quite a long time ago, having briefly joined the herd of 20-something backpackers that eternally roams Southeast Asia, I found myself in Bali, Indonesia. Like all of the other 20-somethings, I carefully read the Lonely Planet Backpacker's Guide to Indonesia and learned, among other things, that it was considered improper for women to wear shorts or trousers when entering Balinese temples. I dutifully purchased a Balinese sarong and, looking awkward and foreign, wore it while visiting temples. I didn't want to cause offense. So this is a personal story about the author visiting Indonesia, going to a temple, learning that there's a rule you cannot wear pants, or I guess women cannot wear pants when you enter a temple. And so she bought a local outfit that fits this rule. And even though she looked awkward and foreign, she didn't want to cause offense. So for our outline, we can write something like, right, this is what this paragraph is saying. There's no point here, there's no argument here, it's just a story. So next paragraph. I thought of that long ago incident during a visit last week to London, where a full-fledged shouting match has broken out over Muslim women who choose to wear the veil. This particular argument had begun because a teaching assistant in Yorkshire refused to remove her veil, a niqab, which covers the whole body except for the eyes, in the presence of male teachers, which was much of the time. She was fired. She went to court, and a clutch of senior British politicians entered the fray. Okay, so this is getting into why this topic is important. It's important because there is a public controversy. A woman has been fired, and the courts are now deciding whether which side to stand on. So we can write that in our outline. So by the way, the handout has 3 essays. Uh, I want you guys to do this yourself for the second essay. So I'm kind of showing you how to do this. Third paragraph. Jack Straw, the former Foreign Secretary, called the full-face veil, quote, a visible statement of separation and of difference, end quote. Tony Blair, the Prime Minister, added that he could, quote, see the reason, end quote, for the teaching assistant to be suspended. Okay, so these are examples. How public is this controversy? And as the author said, British politicians. Paragraph 4. What followed was predictable. Accusations of racism, charges of discrimination, and disagreement about whether the veil was even a valid topic of discussion. If Blair and Straw were really concerned about Muslim women, shouldn't they be more interested in underage marriages or wife beating or something more important? So this paragraph is some details about that discussion. And the details are, it is a messy discussion. People are not even agreeing on what to talk about. And you can expect that this is why the author is writing this piece, because it's too messy. I want to give you some clarity and guidance, maybe. Paragraph 5. The short answer is Yes, probably. But the curious fact is that the veil as a political issue won't go away. The French have banned not only the full veil but headscarves in state schools. Some German regions have banned the headscarf for civil servants too, and they are not permitted in Turkish universities at all. Slowly, the issue is coming to the United States. Just this month, a Michigan judge dismissed a small claims court case filed by a Muslim woman because she refused to remove her full face veil while testifying. So, this paragraph gives you more details about why this discussion is important, because it is not just in the UK. It's spreading across Western Europe and the United States, and different places have different rules. Paragraph 6. Critics call the veil a symbol of female oppression or rejection of Western values. Defenders say that it is a symbol of religious faith and that it allows women to be free in a different sense, free from cosmetics, from fashion, and from unwanted male attention. Debate about the veil inevitably leads to discussions of female emancipation, religious freedom, and the assimilation or lack thereof of Muslim communities in the West. So this is about the two sides. This side believes this, that side believes that. Seven. And yet, at a much simpler level, surely it is also true that the full-faced veil, the niqab, burqa, or chador, causes such deep reactions in the West, not so much because of its political or religious symbolism, but because it is extremely impolite. Finally, we get an argument. Covering the face is impolite. Just as it is considered rude to enter a Balinese temple wearing shorts, so too is it considered rude in a Western country to hide one's face. We wear masks when we want to frighten, when we are in mourning, or when we want to conceal our identities. To a Western child, or even an adult, a woman clad from head to toe in black looks like a ghost. Thieves and actors hide their faces in the West. Honest people look you straight in the eye. So don't worry about if you agree or not. At least this is an argument. It's not polite. Paragraph 8. Given that polite behavior is required in other facets of their jobs, it doesn't seem to me in the least offensive to require school teachers or civil servants to show their faces when dealing with children or the public. If Western tourists can wear sarongs in Balinese temples to show respect for the locals, so too can religious Muslim women show respect for the children they teach and the customers they serve by leaving their headscarves on but removing their full-faced veils. So this is the author's position. You cannot cover your face. You can cover your head, but you cannot cover your face. Paragraph 9. It would, of course, be outrageous if Tony Blair or the French government were to ban veils altogether. just as it is outrageous that Saudi Arabia bans churches and even forbids priests from entering the country. But just because authorities persecute Christians and Jews in some parts of the Muslim world, that doesn't mean we need to emulate them. In their private lives, Muslim women living in the West should be free to use veils or headscarves as they wish. But freedom to practice religion in the West shouldn't imply freedom to hold jobs that impinge on that practice. An Orthodox Jew should not have an absolute right to work in a restaurant that is open only on Saturdays. A Quaker cannot join the army and then state that his religion prohibits him from fighting. By the same token, a Muslim woman who wants to cover her face has no absolute right to work in a school or an office where face-to-face conversations are part of the job. This paragraph is arguing that it's not racist and it's not discrimination because it is only about when you're working in a job where you have to face the public. Again, you can agree or disagree, but this is the argument. 10. It isn't religious discrimination or anti-Muslim bias to tell her that she must be polite to the natives, respect the local customs, try to speak some of the local patois, and uncover her face. So this is a conclusion that summarizes the main points. Right. So this is the outline for this essay. This is what, sorry. This is the outline for this essay. This is what this essay is actually doing. We're almost out of time, but next week, we're going to take this and we're going to rearrange it so that it fits the argument essay structure that I gave you. We're going to create an argument outline or a logic outline. This is an outline about what the author actually wrote. We're going to rearrange it to make it make more logical sense. Homework. Read the next essay. Should the drinking age be lowered? Pages 13 and 14. And write an outline for this essay. What is each paragraph talking about? Next week, after I demonstrate how to rearrange this into a logical outline, you will also rearrange your outline of this essay into a logical outline. And the fun thing is, the third essay is about the same topic, but from the other side. And so once we have a logical outline for this essay, we can then compare the logic of these two essays and see how well they work as argument essays. Okay, questions? Okay, see you next week.